The Switch isn't supposed to be a war machine. And yet here we are. 20 military games that prove Nintendo's little hybrid handles the battlefield better than anyone expected. Canvas and gunpowder. That's the combination nobody saw coming. This tactical RPG from Sega wrapped World War II-era combat in a painterly aesthetic so striking it looked like a living watercolor. Released originally in 2008 and later remastered, Valkyria Chronicles took everything intimidating about strategy games and made it feel personal. You move characters directly, in real time, with enemy fire actually hitting you as you cross open ground. The tension is constant. Your squad isn't a faceless unit. Every character has traits that affect performance. Some fight better around friends. Some panic near insectoids. It's the kind of systemic depth that keeps strategy veterans up at night. The game flopped at retail. Then the PC port happened and a fan base exploded out of nowhere. Sequels followed. An anime. A legacy built entirely on word of mouth. Metacritic sits at 86, but the real number is the people who still call it their favorite SRPG ever made. On Switch, it's portable and gorgeous. That watercolor filter deserves to be played on a screen you can hold in your hands. There's something deeply satisfying about a game that commits fully to one mechanic and refuses to apologize for it. Sniper Elite 4 is that game. Set in Italy during World War II, Rebellion's flagship series reached its peak here. Open-level design, wind-adjusted bullet physics, and that X-ray kill cam that shows exactly what your shot did to the human anatomy in slow-motion detail. It's gratuitous. It's also brilliant. The ballistic system rewards patience. You crouch behind a stone wall, wait for a truck engine to mask your shot, hold your breath, compensate for 300 meters of drop. When it lands, the camera follows the round. The level design is the real secret weapon, though. Santa Croce Giovi Fiorini. These aren't corridors. They're sandboxes. Multiple routes, optional objectives, sniper duels if you lose your cover. Metacritic at 80, but Reddit's tactical shooter community consistently puts this above the competition in its genre. The Switch version holds up remarkably well. Take it portable. Snipe Nazis on your lunch break. Real-time strategy doesn't usually thrive outside PC. Company of Heroes proved it could. Relic Entertainment's seminal World War II RTS landed on Switch with both the original game and its expansions, and it remains one of the most tactically rich war games ever made. Resource points are fought over, not mined passively. Cover matters. Walls get blown apart, buildings collapse. Every unit has weight. A flanked machine gun nest can wipe a squad in seconds if you're not paying attention. The original launched in 2006 and immediately changed what people expected from the genre. The physics, the destructibility, the dynamic front lines, none of it looked like anything else at the time. The Switch port isn't perfect. The interface was built for a mouse, and it shows. But the game underneath is still exceptional. 2 campaigns, multiple factions, a skirmish mode. This is the definitive World War II RTS, and now you can play it on a handheld. That alone is worth something.
Yeah, but the bad news is, there are more of them in this area. Move it, squad! We're gonna have to take them all on.
Stop. This one isn't fun. That's the point. 11-bit studios base this game on the siege of Sarajevo. You don't play a soldier. You play civilians. A small group of people hiding in a bombed-out shelter, trying not to die, trying not to lose their minds, sometimes forced to make decisions that would haunt a real person for years. Scavenge at night. Rest and manage morale during the day. The choices pile up. Do you steal medicine from an elderly couple to save one of your own? Do you help a stranger at risk to your group? There's no right answer. The game received a 4 times Metacritic bonus it didn't need. It was already being assigned in university ethics classes. It won awards. More importantly, it changed how people talk about what games can communicate about war. The complete edition includes all DLC, including the little ones, which adds children as survivors. That expansion is harder to play than anything else on this list. No contest. Before tactical games had tutorials with hand-holding markers, there was Commandos. Pyro Studios' 2001 real-time tactics masterpiece dropped you behind enemy lines with a handful of specialists and no mercy. The Green Beret, the Sniper, the Sapper, the Spy. Each had abilities the others lacked. Most missions required all of them in concert, choreographed through trial and lethal error. Commandos 2 took the original's formula and expanded it dramatically. World War II environments spanning Europe, Africa, and the Pacific. Submarines, trains, kitchens. The level of interactivity was absurd for its time. You could hide bodies in haystacks, lure enemies with cigarettes, crawl through vents. The HD remaster cleaned up the visuals and added quality-of-life features without touching the core design. Community consensus has always been clear. Commandos 2 is the best in the series, harder than anything being made today. Patient Gamer's Hall of Fame. If you've never experienced this brand of punishment, the Switch port is a legitimate place to start. Take Sniper Elite, remove the historical restraint, add Hitler's zombie horde. That's Zombie Army 4, and it is exactly as loud and ridiculous as it sounds. And completely committed to it. Rebellion's spin-off series reached its most polished form in this fourth installment. The co-op shooting is tight, the enemy variety keeps encounters from going stale, and the X-ray kill cam carries over from Sniper Elite in the most grotesque possible ways. Exploding zombie skulls, pinned limbs, slow-motion ribcage shots on undead officers, 4-player campaign co-op, horde mode, a ridiculous arsenal that includes an electric staff and a flamethrower. This isn't trying to say anything about war. It's trying to make sure you never stop grinning. Metacritic at 75. But this is a game where scores don't capture the experience. In the moment a zombie tank shambles into view while your friend is reloading and your other friend is on fire. That's the review. That moment is the review. The Warsaw Uprising of 1944 lasted 63 days. The city burned. Over 200,000 civilians died. Pixelated Milk built a tactics game around it. Warsaw is a brutally difficult turn-based tactical RPG where you command the Polish resistance against impossible odds. Because historically, they faced impossible odds. The art is striking, dark, painted, heavy. Every character has a story. Most of them die. The permadeath is part of the design philosophy. When you lose a fighter, you're meant to feel it. Community reception was mixed on difficulty. Some found it punishing to the point of frustration. But the players who connected with it called it one of the most emotionally honest war games on the platform. It sits at 70 on Metacritic, a number that undersells what it's attempting. This is a game made by Polish developers about Polish history. That context matters. No other game on this list is carrying that much real weight. French Trenches, 1916. Survival horror wrapped in the absolute worst war in human history. Conscript is a passion project. Solo developer Jordan Mochi spent years building a game that uses Resident Evil's mechanics, tank controls, resource management, fixed camera, to tell a story about the Western Front of World War I. The result is extraordinary. Mud, mustard gas, shell shock. The horror isn't supernatural. It's just the war, rendered in painstaking pixel art with atmosphere thick enough to choke on. You play a French soldier searching for his missing brother in the ruins of Verdun, managing inventory, crafting, backtracking through flooded tunnels. Critics and community both responded well. 80 on Metacritic, warm Steam reception. For a solo-developed indie to pull off this concept and execute it at this level is remarkable. The most overlooked game on this entire list by a significant margin. Before mech games were cool again, Front Mission was building the template. Square's 1995 SRPG got a full remake in 2022. New visuals, rebalanced combat, quality of life additions, and it holds up as one of the genre's defining texts. You command Wanzers, bipedal war machines you customize part by part. Legs, torsos, arms, weapons. A Wanzer with damaged legs moves slowly. Lose both arms and a unit can't attack. The tactical depth from individual limb targeting alone separates this from every other mech SRPG. The story is dense Cold War political thriller with personal stakes and genuine tragedy. Metacritic sits at 72 for the remake, but the community's relationship with the original is decades deep. This is strategy RPG history. The Switch remake was the first time Western players got an official localization of the full game. The Super Famicom original was Japan only. That's context that matters. Before Part 4 refined everything, Part 3 built the sandbox. Sniper Elite 3 moved the theater to North Africa. Tobruk, Oasis outposts, desert ridgelines stretching to the horizon. The shift gave Rebellion room to experiment with longer engagement distances and multi-approach level design that directly informed everything they'd do next. The X-ray kill cam debuted properly here. Wind calculations, elevation adjustments, tracer trails, all present. The campaign is shorter than 4 and the AI ages less gracefully. But the bones of what became a great series are visible in every mission. The Ultimate Edition bundles the base game and all DLC. Co-op modes, extra campaign missions, survival maps. At current Switch eShop pricing, it often goes on sale for almost nothing. If you want the Sniper Elite experience at minimum cost, start here. If you want it at maximum quality, Part 4, either way, the genre slot is covered. The sequel nobody outside Japan could play for 25 years. Front Mission 2 was released for PlayStation in 1997. Critically praised, never localized. Forever Entertainment finally brought it to Switch in 2023 with a full remake treatment matching what they did for the first game. The setting shifts from the open field to urban warfare. City maps, tighter corridors, different tactical puzzles. The story is arguably more complex than the original, dealing with military coups, corporate manipulation, and individual soldiers caught inside systems larger than themselves. The Wanzer customization deepens. New parts, new systems, new ways to build a squad. Community reception was positive, if quieter than the first game's remake. This is still a relatively niche audience, but the players who engaged with it called it a worthy continuation. 2 games in, Forever Entertainment is building something. Pay attention. The controversial one. Wolfenstein. Youngblood is a co-op spin-off set in 1980s Paris, following B.J. Blazkowicz's twin daughters hunting for their missing father. Machine Games handed development to Arcane for this entry, and the result is strange, flawed, and more interesting than its reputation suggests. The Nazi killing is as cathartic as ever. The level design takes inspiration from Dishonored's immersive sim tendencies. The RPG light progression adds grind the series didn't need. Critics and community reception were divided. 66 on Metacritic, more mixed user scores. But the co-op with a friend genuinely clicks. The banter between Soph and Jess lands. The setting, neon-lit fascist Paris, is conceptually rich in ways the game only partially delivers on. A flawed entry in one of gaming's best action series. Worth playing with a friend. And harder to recommend solo. Arcade flight combat set across the Pacific theater of World War II, with a campaign that spans both American and Japanese perspectives. Air conflicts. Pacific carriers offer something rare in this genre. 2 complete playable sides, letting players see the same conflict from opposing cockpits. The flight model is accessible rather than simulation. No rudder pedal management, generous damage tolerance, which makes it the right game for Switch audiences who want aerial war without a flight stick. The carrier-based missions add tactical variety beyond straight dogfighting. Managing launch windows, protecting your ship, coordinating with bomber wings. It's not IL-2 Sturmovik. It was never trying to be. What it is, a solidly constructed arcade flight game that commits to its historical theater and offers more content than its budget price suggests. The weakest entry in a legendary series, but still a Commandos game. Commandos 3. HD Remaster brought back the same real-time tactics formula that made Part 2 iconic, applied to new World War II operations spanning Stalingrad, Central Europe, and Normandy. The HD Remaster is thorough. Crisper textures, widescreen support, updated controls. What it couldn't fix was that Pyro Studios was already in creative and financial decline when the original shipped in 2003. Fewer commandos than previous entries. Some missions that rely on combat rather than stealth, which goes against the series' DNA. The community consensus is clear. Play Part 2 first. If you love it, Part 3 offers more missions in the same style. If you need more commandos after Part 2, and you will, this is the place to go.
In this operation.
Oh, looks like we are on our own. I guess that is the way it will always be.
Straightforward World War II aerial combat, handling everything from Spitfires over Britain to Zeros in the Pacific. HomeNet Games built a game specifically designed for the casual end of the flight combat spectrum. Hangar upgrades, crew management, squadron missions. With a scope ambitious for its modest budget, the Switch version adds handheld portability to a game that suits short sessions naturally. Fly a mission, land, upgrade, repeat. The loop is clean. The plane roster covers the major combatant nations with enough variety to keep progression feeling meaningful. Not a simulation, not trying to be. This is the flight combat equivalent of a well-made B-movie. Does exactly what it promises, nothing more.
Awaiting dropping bomb! Fantastic! That black gun is burning!
The uglier, older sibling. HomeNet's WW1 aerial combat game does for biplanes what Dogfight does for WW2 planes, with the added historical texture of the war that invented aerial combat as a concept. The Red Baron era. Fabric wings and unreliable engines and pilots who wore scarves because the cockpits were open to the sky. The game captures the precariousness of early military aviation better than its production values suggest it should. Less content than the WW2 entry, simpler mechanics. But there's something about dogfighting in this setting, circling biplanes, shooting at canvas and wood, that feels distinct from everything else on this list. Historical novelty has value. This is the only game covering WW1 aerial combat on the Switch with any real depth. Before Part 4 raised the production ceiling, the Trilogy built the franchise. 3 games, remastered and bundled. The original Zombie Army, Part 2, and Part 3. These were originally DLC for Sniper Elite Fi 2, then expanded into their own products, then collected here. The production is rougher than Part 4, earlier engine, tighter budgets, less enemy variety. But the co-op zombie sniping loop was already fully formed. The Trilogy represents the founding document of a series that grew into something legitimately good. For players who want maximum Zombie Army content before Part 4 or after it, the Trilogy fills the gap. The bundle value is real. 3 campaigns of undead Wehrmacht to work through with friends. An arcade tank combat game with some of the most visually ambitious environments on the Switch's eShop. Destructible terrain, dynamic weather, World War II-era tanks from multiple nations. Atypical games built this for mobile originally, and the Switch conversion is competent if uneven. The gameplay loop is simple. Take your tank into missions, blow things up, upgrade. No complexity here. What it offers is accessibility. If you want to shoot a Tiger tank with a Sherman and watch the environment respond to explosions, this delivers. Community reception was lukewarm. The mobile DNA shows in mission structure. But for the niche of people who specifically want World War II tank combat on the go, the options are genuinely limited. This fills that slot. Twin-stick shooter built around miniaturized military action. Tiny soldiers, huge missions, arcade sensibility from start to finish. Kukuri brought both Tiny Troopers games together in this XL bundle, giving players co-op campaign content, special ops missions, and a zombie mode that leans into the genre mixing that defines the Switch's indie military catalog. The visual style is deliberately cartoonish. Bobblehead soldiers, exaggerated explosions. But the underlying game is a competent twin-stick shooter with genuine upgrade progression. Unit specialization, weapon unlocks, commander skills. The budget is visible throughout, but the co-op works and the session length suits handheld play. Not the deepest game on this list. Definitely not trying to be.
Probably should have had a quip ready for that. Now to hope that intel got through to command.
Prior to exfiltration,
The series returned with a modernized entry in 2022. Updated visuals, reworked controls, new missions spanning contemporary military settings rather than World War II. Global Ops leans further into the twin-stick action template with less strategy overlay than the originals. The community reception was modest. This isn't a prestige title. But it does something the rest of this list doesn't. Put tiny soldiers in modern conflict settings with current military hardware. Helicopters, urban warfare, desert operations. For the specific audience looking for a casual military action game with modern aesthetics rather than historical framing, Global Ops occupies a slot nothing else on this list fills.